got a special guest for you today. We got Chad Goodwin, race team manager for Thor Kawasaki Pro Circuit. How you doing today, Chad?
Doing good. Just trying to get as much done as we can on a typical off-season Friday.
Mm-hmm.
This is a super busy time of year for me, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of my questions for you. Is there even an off season for you as a race team manager?
No, not really. Honestly, the season is probably the easiest for me when we
Okay.
are actually racing.
Mm-hmm.
During the season, it's a little easier because we have the product, we have mechanics at the shop, and things seem to go a little easier during the summer. Off season's definitely when it's tough for me. Contracts with sponsors, either previous or potential future, um, getting bikes, equipment, product shipped to where we can start testing for the season. So off season for me doesn't really exist, but
Mm-hmm.
the riders are training full year round, so we just kind of keep working all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Okay, I want to get into the writing, but I want to hold up on that a little bit. I just kind of want to get into your background a little bit. And how did you become a race team manager? Were you entitled? Were you actually working with a team prior with the experience as a manager? And how did you end up getting involved with the Canadian race team as a manager?
I've been doing race something with racing since I was a kid. 49 years old now, so I've either worked in the U.S. as a mechanic or as a team manager or raced myself. And 2009, I had the opportunity to help start up a team in Canada from the US, and we went up. And then that just kind of led to where I kind of really enjoyed Canada. Had a lot of great friends there and just kept working as a mechanic. And then towards 2018, I had an option with Huber Motorsports to come in as a mechanic and worked a little bit with that, and then had another opportunity with them to become team manager.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be, I guess, my second year, third year doing it with this group,
Mm-hmm.
and I just have a great boss, I guess, for a better way to describe him. I
Yeah.
don't really look at him as that. I mean, the whole Huber family has gone above and beyond to help support racing in Canada, which was snowmobiles at one point,
Mm-hmm.
motocross now, and I mean, obviously they treat me extremely well. So I'm super blessed to be where I'm at.
Good. Has it been a challenge for you as far as working in Canada with the writers? Because I noticed the writers are American writers, and there's got to be some type of challenge, I believe, involved, especially with the whole COVID thing going around. There's people who are pro-vax and not vax, and flight delays and everything. It's got to been some type of headache, right?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue, of course, was coming into the program and sitting down with Gerhardt and Christian and trying to come up with a 3 to 5 year plan to make the team viable
Mm-hmm.
and to give the best exposure to our sponsors. And initially, we had some U.S. riders, and then throughout the years, we've had U.S. riders. And big change for 2022 is we are finally at a point where we have uh, Caleb Van Aert on a KX65.
Mm-hmm.
We've moved Dylan Rempel from the Super Mini program to our 250, and we've just recently signed Tanner Ward
Oh,
from the
really?
GDR Honda team. He'll be coming aboard to ride a Kawasaki 450.
Wow.
So it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
With me being based in the U.S., sometimes I feel like getting there or the travel can be difficult. Same way with riders, materials that come from the U.S., whether you're a U.S. person or not.
Mm-hmm.
The logistics side of getting product in and out of Canada is always super difficult, and
Yes.
COVID just added to that. And a great example is in the last 2 years, I lived in my motorhome at the shop for
Mm-hmm.
5 months each year
Wow.
to prevent getting stuck at the border.
Yes.
Our riders last year, we rented a house for them to live in for 5 months. So
Mm-hmm.
COVID has definitely increased the concern of travel
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, not just race teams, but for
Yes.
us. We're really looking forward to this season and hopefully getting to those provinces that so deserve to see the racing programs come.
Makes clear sense, man. Um, as as a race team manager, when you guys hire your riders, say the riders that you had last year on your team, you guys let me back it up. Congratulations on your success so far. I mean, you guys did awesome. You guys did extremely well, wrapping up a few titles. Did really good in the 450, even in the super mini class. I was reading everything. Did really well. But as far as like hiring the American riders to ride for the Canadian team, do you feel like there's an advantage for you guys, and why was that your choice of hiring those two riders?
Um, the big advantage of hiring a Canadian rider would be the logistics side. If we
Mm-hmm.
were talking not talent,
Mm-hmm.
obviously we are in a position with Canadian Kawasaki where we want to win. So for years there wasn't the talent pool necessary probably to accomplish that,
Mm-hmm.
and there was some Americans that were willing to come up that were competitive and won titles. I worked with Matt Gerke and he won a title, several titles there.
Mm-hmm.
So the landscape has changed. There is a lot of up and coming talent, and for us, we saw that value with Dylan Rempel. That's the first time that a official race team like Kawasaki or somebody had a super mini program under the tent.
Okay.
So it was a big effort to continue to grow that Canadian talent. And now we have a 65 kid of all things to put into the program, which shows that there is value to supporting Canadians and Canadian
Mm-hmm.
motocross. And I think my biggest question I get a lot of times is, well, why do you come to Canada? Or why
Mm-hmm.
are they paying an American to run a Canadian race team?
Mm-hmm.
And my values are to promote Canadian motocross, period.
Yeah.
Be no different if I went to New Zealand. I would do it there. This is a job for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm passionate about my job. And I'm 10 plus years traveling to Canada and consider it my second home. I'm
Yeah.
there just as much as I am here in the U.S. anymore. So we're just in a great position with the other programs across the country are working hard to support Canadian riders, and I just was absolutely lucky this year that we were able to bring Tanner on, and that kind of completed a list of three very capable Canadian riders for the future, and we're
Mm-hmm.
excited.
And how long? Who sets your contracts? Are you the actual guy who writes the contracts, or you guys have attorneys writing all the contracts for the riders?
With all the contracts, generally I'll go through and get something written up, and then once we kind of get down towards the end, we'll have Gerhardt approves everything. Obviously, it's
Mm-hmm.
the bottom dollar is his, so I send it off to Gerhardt, and he'll go through everything, make sure that the legal side of it is good, and then it comes back to me, and we get it done. And that's the same thing we do with riders or mechanics or sponsors. We try to run it as professionally as we can on a very Canadian style budget,
Mm-hmm.
which at times is difficult for our race team, whether it's motor or suspension or a mechanic. We try to make sure that we're getting the best value we can for the dollar, and the family atmosphere is very important when we look at a rider or we look at a contract. A lot of times, before we even get to contracts, we move on just because we want to make sure that the image that we're putting out to the public, whether it be the Huber name or Canadian Kawasaki or Thor, Parts Canada, the image is the biggest thing that we can control in house.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control where we race. We can't control whether or not somebody wins or not, but we can do our part to make sure we're supporting the families, because without those families going to their local Kawasaki dealership and purchasing gear and parts, then there's no racing. There's no value to it. So I think with my background, I was raised. My dad was an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, that's what I look at motocross. This is a business of how do we get people to dealerships, even more so important than ever with the online and COVID and everything that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
We really have to make sure that we're putting a good product out there for people to be able to get to.
Exactly. Now, with you guys running, like you want to, I'm not sure who do you have for your sponsors. You guys carrying out the same sponsors as you did last year as well?
We're really close. I think we had 35 last year, and we're up a couple this year. The only real change we have is a partnership that we're starting to develop with Walton Raceway
Okay.
and also with Georgia Practice Facility in Georgia.
Mm.
And we're just trying to give kids an opportunity to say, this is a place that we feel is family oriented. This is a place we feel like you can get trained, whether you're a 65 kid or a Tanner Ward on a 450.
Hmm.
Just kind of give them that peace of mind knowing that, we have evaluated the people that are there, they've evaluated us, and we think there's a good fit. So those two partners are coming on board. And then we had an option for another Canadian possible long-term sponsor come on, which is Renegade Fuel,
Hmm.
and we're excited with that. It's a Canadian distributor, and he's really big about helping other privateers. So we'll be the first factory team in Canada to be running Renegade Fuel,
Nice.
and it kind of all goes back, ties into teams that I've worked for in the past and
Hmm.
relationships. So Blake and I started working in the fall on it, and yeah, but sponsor wise, we're pretty close. A couple new ones, and everything we try to do is long term. Like say we had 3 5 year plans out here, and we're in the middle of it right now.
No, yeah, okay, okay. Sounds good, man. You guys got a lot of plans in the works. You guys got some good riders on your team. I wish you guys the best success this in 2022. You guys had great success. Why would you feel like if you had such a good year last year, why do you feel like they say if something's not broke, why fix it? You know what I mean? So why were you guys just decide to go with new riders for this year?
Yeah, I mean, people will look at that, and maybe if we succeed, if we could do big excitement, and if we fail, it'll be why. But at the end of the day, we had two riders last year that far exceeded anything that we asked for them.
Mm,
They did everything on the track, off the track, and then it came down to the end of the year where we looked at where we want to be and the logistics side of things, and the budgets that are constantly coming down, and our desire to promote with the Team Green program 65 kids all the way into the pro ranks.
hmm.
It just kind of fell into place where it was great riders available, an option to let Dylan Rempel, who proved his value last year, to
Hmm.
get an opportunity to ride 250 intermediate and pro this year and give him time to develop. It was hard, really hard. I spent a good month of sleepless nights. Obviously, with Marshall, he had been with the program for a few years.
Hmm.
You spend more time with them than you do any friends and family you have. So, Darian and Marshall came in. They never once complained about anything. They never had issues with the the restrictions of crossing the border or
Hmm.
living in a rental home for the summer. So it was a big conversation with Gerhardt and our key sponsors as to what we should do and where we should go. And at the end of the day, I feel like we made a decision best for our future. And obviously, with Darian and Marshall, we wish them the best, and
Hmm.
hopefully, they can find a spot and come up and compete on the other side of the team.
Okay, okay. So, Pro Circuit is one of you guys' main sponsors. Um, I'm from California, and I used to go to Pro Circuit on a regular basis. I used to deliver a lot of maximum oils to Pro Circuit back in the days. I became friends with Mitch back in the days, and I'm curious. Do you guys have Pro Circuit? This is a question for me personally. Do you guys have Pro Circuit actually doing your motors and suspension? And how is that if it does? I mean, do you guys get your motor works done here, or do you guys ship your motors down there to be built and sit back? How does that work for you guys as a race team?
Kind of like you. I mean, I go back to the late 90s, 2000, somewhere in there is the first time I was to Pro Circuit,
Mm-hmm.
on a small privateer out of a van, and then through big race teams. So, you know, 20 plus year relationship with Mitch and his brother, and, just the whole group.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the friends that I worked with on race teams have either worked for Mitch in house on
Mm-hmm.
their race team or on their motor suspension program. So we had an opportunity a few years back to have them build some motors and suspension, and it absolutely was a dream. And the last couple of years, what we've done is we actually take our truck and we work out of Pro Circuit. There's two buildings there. If you remember, there's the
Mm-hmm.
A building up front and the B building back. So
Yes.
we actually were able to park our truck inside.
Okay.
We work right inside the actual race shop. We have bays there that Mitchell
Mm-hmm.
sets up for us, and Luke and the guys do in suspension. The big thing with PC is whether you're a customer or you're here or Europe, wherever you may be, the race team suspension's getting done right next to a customer set of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
we generally go out for about a month of the year and base out of there and get all of our motors built, all of our suspension built. And then once everything's done and our testing's done, we try to have everything done late February, March, depending on schedules, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll do our photo shoot, and then we'll go back to Canada. So uh, the the value of having somebody with that kind of background at Pro Circuit, and we have a relationship even with the U.S. side through Team Green and Ryan Holiday. We needed a bike for Tanner right away, so a couple of emails and phone calls, and they set us up with a dealer to work with in the States, which I had a background with through
Mm-hmm.
Babbitt's Arena Cross team when I worked there, and we got Tanner a bike in one day, and it's about the relationships, and that's what we have with Pro Circuit. We get a report on Monday, whether we win, lose, or draw, and if we ever need more or less, there's always somebody there to help us. And I think that's why the program has progressed in the last few years. Is we know what we have. It's already been tried and tested. We're not waiting to find out something on race day,
Yes.
or whether I think it's right or not. It's kind of a neutral party. Kawasaki believes in that for their racing in the U.S., and I'm lucky enough that Canadian Kawasaki lets us choose who we want to go with,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel that's the best choice for our program.
Nice. That's you guys are a pretty successful team. You guys know what you're doing. You know what you want. You got your connections all set out. Um, as far as like even with the motor, I want to kind of talk about the motor work. Like, do you guys have to? You guys carry spare motors? As because if you got a couple guys that just say you blow up two motors in a race, and your motors are built in Pro Circuit, what do you do in that situation?
We generally carry enough motors that we would never be in a situation to be without one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it may come to the where it's a practice motor,
Okay.
but we just do a rotation, and with the reliability of the Kawasaki 250, 450,
Mm-hmm.
65s, all of them, we're generally on a 2 to 3 race rotation,
Okay.
and then we have things freshened up. And then same thing with suspension, where
Mm-hmm.
we each rider has 3 sets. Worst case scenario, we'd go back to a set of production stuff that is revalved for that rider.
Okay.
So we always have plenty of spares and extras that were set. And with the championship contenders that we've always had,
Mm-hmm.
we generally have a spare race bike built as well. So we try to prevent any problem from happening.
Makes sense, man. You guys are well organized, and I love seeing you guys out there doing your thing. Very successful team. Got all your stuff in order,
Thank
got
you.
all your ducks in order, man, and you guys look good out there all the time. Um, so, how long do you guys have Tanner for? Is that something you can discuss as far as his contract? Do you guys go year by year? Do you guys give a guy a two ride deal, or how does that work out on you guys' end?
Generally, we do 1 year with some options, whether it's performance based or sponsorship packages that we could have in the future. The days of giving a guy a 2, 3 year contract are pretty much done with.
Mm-hmm.
COVID changed the landscape of knowing where we were going to race and how we were going to race. It's really hard for companies that support us who want us to be out west or out east to commit long term, just the not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
But we hope to have Caleb and Dylan and Tanner for a very long time. I'd like to see Tanner retire here, and then Dylan move into his spot, and
Mm-hmm.
Caleb will move up through the Super Mini to the 250 as well. So um, we are very blessed to have Tanner's 22, so
Mm-hmm.
we have a long run with Tanner ahead of us.
Okay, okay. So all you guys do you guys get in any racing while you're down in Florida training, or you guys just strictly stick to training while you're out there?
Tanner's actually going to hop on the Kawasaki and do some East Coast Supercross on a 250.
Okay.
That was kind of a big holdup on the contract, just
Hmm.
because as a Canadian race team, we weren't really prepared to do that. But Thankfully, the U.S. Team Green program helped us with a bike. Um, we're going to get some equipment from Pro Circuit and get him the best we can for the situation. He'll do, I think he's doing 4 or 5 of the East Coast rounds starting. I think he's doing Minneapolis, St. Louis, Daytona, Texas, and maybe Indy or something like that.
Wow.
And that'll be great for Tanner.
Hmm.
And then in between there, he'll start riding and testing on the 450 stuff. So kind of makes the transition a little bit easier because he'll already know 250 stuff. It'll help roll that stuff into Dylan, who's 14. So trying to test with a 14-year-old is, kind of a challenge. So Tanner will be doing some testing on that department, and then
Hmm.
Tanner and Caleb are at GPF training now, and they'll probably do maybe the Daytona Amateur Day, possibly Freestone, a few races to get some things, and then we're lucky enough to be based in Ontario, and we'll do some of the early rounds of the AMO
Hmm.
series up there in the spring to get them some more gate drops. But all of the guys, myself, the down from Gerhardt, we definitely support the racing, whether
Hmm.
it's local or East Coast Supercross or we definitely see the value of the seat time. There's always a risk. We pray riders don't get hurt, but they could get hurt just as easy at home as they can racing.
Hmm.
So gate time really is a big value, and that's one of the things that I learned probably working with Marshall Welton so much
Hmm.
is the guy raced all the time, and you could put him on the gate anywhere, and he was good to go. So that's kind of, you learn things from riders, and you try to implement it into the program and move forward with it. And that was something I definitely see the value in.
Okay. Now, I don't know how much. I know Tanner's got major Supercross experience, but I don't know how much Supercross experience he has in the U.S. Do you guys feel like as a race team, well, evidently you do, but to why risk him getting an injury on an East Coast Supercross when he's kind of need to get ready for the outdoors?
Yeah, that's a tough one. The risk is there, and maybe it's a little higher risk because of Supercross. But Tanner has raced a lot of indoors from mini bikes all the way up,
Mm-hmm.
and he had already committed on his own expense that he was going to come down to Florida and train with a trainer, which is Tyler Rattray.
Mm-hmm.
He has a facility in Florida in Claremont, and he was doing it the right way. And it was really hard to tell him, hey, you've just wasted 2 months of your training for this, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
We felt like, he was motivated to do it, and the risk reward of getting him on a Kawasaki right away, the value that he'll be able to help Dylan when Dylan starts riding Supercross on a 250.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Tanner's doing that testing now. So we're kind of killing a couple options right off the bat. We're getting Tanner comfortable for the 450 with the bikes are the same as far as the chassis goes. We're also doing testing for Dylan, and we do have a indoor series in Canada, and we'll be ahead of the game. So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of it eliminates test days maybe at the local tracks in California,
Yes.
but it gives us real life training and testing, and we just try to do the best we can. Tanner has a day under his belt and looked amazing. I was there yesterday with Tanner, and
Mm-hmm.
he looks great on a Kawasaki. He looks great on a Supercross track. So
Mm-hmm.
he's doing it the slow way, and that's the key with Supercross is take your time. And
Yeah.
we hope he can put it in the main event and show some sponsors the value that he brings to our team, whether it's in the U.S. or whether we're in Canada or even in Europe. So.
Mm-hmm. Right on, man. Well, that'll pretty much wrap the interview up, Chad. I highly want to thank you for your information, your enlightenment, and the conversation, man. It was good to know the things inside of a factory team. There's questions that I wanted to know, and I appreciate your time and energy. And I wish, like I said, I wish you guys, congratulate you guys on all your success, and I wish you guys the best for 2022. I'll be out there watching you guys for sure.
All right, we sure appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the shows. Everybody out here, we love the new people that are enthusiastic about promoting Canadian motocross. So we appreciate your help.